Hello team, welcome back. In the last tutorial, we have seen how we can scale up the services and how we can add a new service in the Docker stack. Today we will see how we can solve the persistent data problem in Docker stack, right? So let's start with. So in this particular lecture, we are going to resolve the persistent data issue with the Docker Swarm. Then first we need to understand why the persistent data is an issue with the Docker Swarm. This is an issue with the Docker Swarm because in the Docker Swarm, your container can execute on any of the node, right? And if you want to make the mount point with the persistent volume, then if you define any directory, then it may possible this time your container is running on node 1 and next time when you will spin up the container will execute on node 3, right? So in that case, the persistent data volume will create an issue because first time when your container was running, that directory, that particular volume was created on node 1. Next time when you have started the container, it choose the directory container, choose the node randomly, and it created on node 3 or node n, right? And on that particular node you don't have that particular directory structure, right? So your container will start from the blank database. So that's why the persistent data is an issue with the Docker Swarm. Now we need to understand how we can resolve this persistent data issue with the Docker Swarm. So for this, first user can use the volumes to define the mount point. We will mount the container directory with my local host directory, and I can restrict the service to execute on a specific node. So that when we are restricting the service to access a specific node, it means always that particular task container will start on a specific node so that you will get the mount point data every time when you will restart your containers, right? So in this tutorial, we are going to add one more service, Redis, and we will see how Redis can perform the persistent data and how Redis can read the persistent data. So let's start with. So to extend the Redis in our service, I'm going to add one more service in my Docker YAML file, which is Redis, right? So I have added one more service Redis, which is using the image Redis. This is exposed on port 6379 to the external world and 6379 to the container. And this is the volume directory. This is the location which is defined on your host machine, and this is the location inside the container. So inside the container, the data location will access this particular data directory, home docker data, right? I'm deploying the Redis. The placement is constraint, and I have defined that this particular service must execute on manager only. Now over here, I'm defining a command Redis server hyphen hyphen append only yes. This will what this will do, this will basically maintain the AOF files, and always whenever your container will restart or create a new container, this will append the data inside the existing data instead of refreshing the data, right? And I'm defining this will use the same network webnet, right? Now what I need to do, I need to copy this, go to my terminal, and over here first I will check if any service is running. So docker service nginx ls, and yes, the services are running, right? Now what I will do, I will open the docker YAML file, remove the existing content, and add the new content. So over here you can see we have the Redis service, we have the visualizer, and we have the web service as well. I'm going to maintain the version, save this particular file, right? And again I need to execute the same command, right? Docker swarm deploy, docker stack deploy hyphen c, docker compose dot yaml, and my service name. Hit enter button. So this will update your existing service, and you can see it has created a new service nginx start redis. If you will execute a command docker service ls, then you can see it is trying to create the redis, but still it is not able to create it. Now if you will execute a command docker service ls, then you can see I have executed the same command 3 times, but every time I'm getting 0 container running on my host machine. Let me explain the reason for this. If we will vi the docker compose YAML file, then we have defined the mount point of redis is like home docker data, right? but somehow this directory is not present on our machine, on our host machine, so that the service is not able to start the redis on your host machine. In some cases you don't have the access to this particular directory because you are using some other user instead of the root, then you may not have the permission at this particular location. In that case, what we need to do, we can update this location by this. Let me explain. I will remove everything. Just go to insert mode and remove everything from here, and just keep dot data data colon data. What does it means? It means access the data from the current directory where I'm executing the command, right? Just save this program. Now if I will execute a command pwd, then you can see right now I'm inside the sample nginx. If I will put ls, then over here I don't have any data directory. So first I will create a data directory like mkdir data, right? Or you can mention like this, mkdir data, put ls, then you can see a data directory is being created over here. Now if we will again execute our service update command, docker stack deploy -c docker compose yaml nginx start, then you can see it is updating the visualizer, it has created the redis, and it is updating the service web. Now if I will execute a command docker service ps, sorry, docker service ls, then you can see one replica of redis is running, right? So the issue was with the mount location, so we have to take care that stuff as well, right? So when we are starting with the stack, or when we are dealing with the mount locations, then we need to take care actually it is creating that mounted location or not, or is that mounted location which we are trying to access is available on our host machine or not, right? So you can see the container of redis is running, which is running. If I will debug this like docker service ps nginx redis, then it must execute on your host machine. See, it is executing on my manager machine, right? Now if you will go to the browser, copy any ip of DigitalOcean. Suppose I'm copying the ip of this machine, which is my second machine. Go to your browser, type here, and try to access it on port 4000. So you will get the visits as well right here. Earlier we was getting some kind of error over here, right? We was getting that redis container is not present or something like that, right? Right now I'm getting some visits. If I will refresh this visit will update every time. See, this visit is updating every time, right? If we will go to the port 8080 to open the visualizer, then you can see one more container is being added. Right now all nginx 5 containers are in dark green border, the visualizer in purple border, and the redis in light green border, right? And these two containers are running on my manager machine. Right now let's go to terminal again and stop your service. Docker service rm nginx redis, right? If you will see, that container which was running on my machine 2 should have stopped. If I will go to the visualizer again and refresh this, then you can see the redis container is gone, right? So we have stopped the redis container. It means all the visits which I have done on my web application should be lost when I will restart it, because I have removed the container, but we have mounted the location, so ideally these visits should be remain, right? Over here if you will go to the data location, let me try to open this if I have something over here. So over here you have a file append only AOF. I don't know I would be able to access it or not, but let's try and see. It have some data, right? One counter, then we have the another counter, right? Have the three counters. So this file has some data right now. We are not trying to understand this. What is this, right? So leave it as it is and go back to our location nginx, right? Clear out the console and let's start the service again. So this is the command we can execute to start the service, but before starting the service, let's go to the web application as well. So instead of the visualizer, let's go to the web application. In our previous visits the visit number was 4. Let me refresh it. So see, you are getting the error message cannot connect to the Redis, counter disabled, right? If I will again start the Redis, so this time Redis should start in a new container because I have removed the service, right? But as it is reading the data from the mounted location, so it should retain the visits. See, it is retaining the visits. So this is the solution of the persistent data volume with the swarm, right? If you have the persistent data volume issue with the swarm, you can define the nodes as well. So team, that's all for the day. In the coming lecture, we will learn few interesting things about the Docker Swarm and Docker Swarm stacks. So thank you team, thanks for your time.